live. Just got through checking out Mad Dog Stephen A. and JJ Reddick. I'll do a JJ Reddick video tomorrow. We'll address the Doc Rivers and his takes. Saw what he had to say about Kevin Durant. Durant's a leader. Durant's interview with his agent. The charismatic, this or that. I've already talked about Kevin Durant. Yes, he's one of the greatest basketball players ever. He's probably in that 11 to 20 greatest players ever. But I do agree with Mad Dog. He does need a ring to simplify himself from Steph Curry. And he does need to make a statement with Phoenix because his thing is like this guy is one of those guys that you want to see if he can actually do it his way. This would be huge if he can pull it off. I don't know about him and D Book. But anyway, we always knew he's kind of shy, low key, stays away, nonchalant. So, it's kind of one of them things where I did think of once upon a time he was the best player in the league. Um, I never had no problem with him going to Golden State. As I think in hindsight, it looks like he should have stayed there because that was the best strategy strategically to go and win the chip. Um, I don't think that he's going to have quite that same situation. I mean, him and Steph were golden together, really, and it was unstoppable. And I said it before. I think they could have been the dynamic duo, the most important duo since Shaq and Kobe. I really do believe that because they just were adding to each other's games. They were there scoring. When you go to the finals like they did, and I mean, they were going and they were making a run. I mean, they were unstoppable. It wasn't fair, some people will say, but hey, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. So what's up? What's up? So I just thought I'd address that thing. I saw that just now. The other thing I'm going to address is Jalen Brown. That was hilarious about the girlfriend, and some people making jokes about he let her slip or something. And I said, I said, you know what? I said he ain't got no dribbles on the court or off the court, so can't be mad at him. He do what he do. So they talking about the Jalen Brown thing. Um, Other topic I got into was Mickey Guyton, the country singer, and I was saying that yeah, Beyonce got the headline for the first black female country artist to go number one with a song. But I said about Mickey Guyton. Mickey Guyton was you know, she been out there for quite a minute. So why can't she get some juice? These whole things are so much political that music is music, and it's the truth. You know, music is music. Now, the people who created it, that's another story. But music is music. It touches people different lives. It has no limitations. Fans come in all styles and backgrounds to support your work. You know, but it's the labels that keep the agenda. So, what's happening, man? How you doing? Okay, that was the question you wanted to ask me yesterday. Okay, because he came in with baggage. He came in with baggage. He had Wonstead and some of the other cats that was talking about his off the field. And so at that time, Moss paid the same price that Warren Sapp paid. You were black and you in college and you had indiscretion. It really meant you were going to slide. And two things could work against you. If you were black and had an indiscretion or you got hurt, you slid down. You remember Willis McGahee? He slid because he got hurt. But Moss had an episode, just like Eric Mose, who you love a lot. And had people talking trash. They slid. Sapp had that marijuana possession with the Hurricanes. He slipped. Now, fast forward to Cam Newton and the computers, it didn't work against him. I don't think his hair worked against him. I just think it was his off the field that they went after. I think it was more because they used those following that follows thereafter. But what happened off the field, and I think Jerry Jones, they were reluctant because he had off the field. And you remember that was around the time the Cowboys had the White House, and Michael Irvin was always in trouble. There was always something with the Cowboys, right? Nate Newton, all that. That's one of the reasons. So it hurt his stock. But he also was not in a situation with a team that had necessarily been successful. And Culpepper was still there before Randall got there, but it was a situation of him not playing what I call a desirable team too. See, all these things happen to be in place. The NFL likes you to be at a certain place, then you get more hype. Remember, he got punished when he got traded to Oakland because he had the baggage in college. And no matter how much you might be up someone's alley, the baggage worked against him. That's what it was. That's what it was. And would have gave Troy Aikman about 2, 3 more years. You right. But he had baggage. And they worked it against him. Funny thing, when Moss went through all that, but Jameson Winston didn't go through all that. Jameson got straight drafted. So it all depends. All depends. But there was an issue that happened, and that's one of the reasons why he fell out. Max a bit narcissist, but love would understand it. Are you talking about Randy Moss, or you? I mean, I just want to understand Carlton. Who are you referring to? Carlton. I'm just curious. Okay, well, it's okay. I don't really know you that well, but if you feel that way, you're entitled to your opinion. I haven't really met your acquaintance, and you know, I haven't put any judgment on you. But if that's how you feel, that shall speak your piece. Um, I can't. I would have said something about how he let some guys get off in games, but I can't really, in hindsight, have anything. Okay, cool, cool, Carlton. Um, I can't really find. I really don't really have a big peeve with Tim Duncan. I'm not gonna sit and say anyone's perfect, but Shaq called him the big fundamental for a reason, and there's not too many people you can say that about. You know, uh, he really was like a robot. He was really like so well compacted that you know. Oh, Clay, now there's a difference. My Clay Thompson pet peeve is that he gets into this thing about he kind of does the Shaq thing where he always throws his fourth rings up and he gets into this exchange with people and he uses that or he'll call someone out, especially when he was playing really well. And sometimes it builds him up. Sometimes he gets into that lip service when he really doesn't have to. He really doesn't have to, you know. It's unfortunate. I think Clay goes through it because some people hate on him because he's light skinned. And then you know how that can go with all that. And some people then said some stuff. I think there's been some cheap shots taken. And he really doesn't have to go there. So that's my only knock against Clay if I was gonna pick one. I think also he got real sensitive when Barkley and them talked about his injury, but they was talking about the truth because he really wasn't the same dude. I mean, this guy's a 20 plus point a night, s- underrated defensive player. And he's one of those kind of people that he would have been interested on another team. Barkley putting on black folks down a lot of times, always trying to, like he gets excited about this and black folks more than anything, you know. And he doesn't like he has that tendency. That's what he does. That's why people have separated him, you know, because if I told you Barkley was one of the blackest, scariest cats in the '90s, you wouldn't believe me because you had to see it to believe it. And he was one of those cats that this is the thing. Jordan might have had the streets before Barkley and all that, but I mean, Jordan had this, corporate, and Iverson had the streets, but Barkley was the dude that he was like Ice Cube almost of basketball. He had a certain aura and street. And so he says, I'm not your role model. And he was talking. But that dude is just not the same. But he has a personality that people, I understand how it goes in basketball terms, but he tap dances a lot. And that's a problem I have. And then as a basketball player, my pet peeve was he just didn't work on his game or uh, he when I say that you asked me about him and Karl Malone, he just didn't work on his game because he should have been Barkley should be an argument for one of the 13, 14 greatest players ever. I mean, are you kidding me? He was an incredible talent, the round man. We know he's 6'4", really. I mean, he came up big. Not much on the basketball side, more as a head coach because he got hoodwinked with Dwight Howard and James Harden. He's still belly aching about James Harden. And I think that that's one of the things that he kind of, I can't never have anything problem with him as a basketball player because you got to remember something. He was a sixth man who made himself into a starter who became one of the greatest players ever. And of all the power forwards I've ever seen, I've never seen another one who utilized their hands like an octopus. No one ever used their long reach arms like McHale did. McHale was something else. He was definitely somebody that I would tell you to. Gervin, because he was kind of like what Carmelo would be like when he gets older, a guy that because he was an offensive dude, that's how his whole thing was built on. And there's nothing wrong with that, but he was kind of like always throwing it at you, like you can't get this finger roll. And he was bad, but it's also like you didn't exactly go to San Antonio and make that team better and didn't exactly, you know, take your game to another level. So that's one of my pet peeves with him. But he was great offensive talent, one of the greatest talents ever. And I do think I understand how he feels some disdain because when you look at guys scoring 50 points in the 60s and the 70s before the three-point line became implemented, those guys could purely score. And they were being defended and they had to utilize, and create. So I can understand how he has disdain. Because a guy like George Gervin today would be crazy. I got nothing bad to really say about Brad Daugherty. He got hurt, and it's unfortunate his NBA career because he was looking like he was a pre-Tim Duncan. He just got hurt, and Dean Smith did a great job of masking him like he did Jordan. Came into the NBA and he was like another level. He just got hurt. That's why Magic and them thought Cleveland was going to be the team of the '90s. He just got hurt. He had a good game, you know. He just couldn't stay healthy. That's all. Ray, the only knock I got against Ray, so it was game one of the finals in 2014 when they lost. And remember LeBron cramped up and they turned the heat on in San Antonio. He went coast to coast on a dunk. And it blew my mind because I was like, you never hardly ever did that in Milwaukee or Seattle. Well, he went coast to coast. So Ray was still showing crazy athleticism. And I thought sometimes he held back of how freaking good he could really be. That's my only knock against him because I was like, wow, Ray had some spring. But the whole thing with him and Garnett and them was, you know, think he was better than he got credit for being, but I think he kind of down. It's hard to figure out with Ray, but I won't really have too many knocks against Ray because Ray did something that most players don't do. He hired Johnny Cochran as a lawyer to re-sign his deal, paid him a status quo of $500 or $600 an hour, and got a deal done. That was a big move by Ray. Ray's also one of those guys who retired, and you still wonder if he had 3 or 4 years left in the tank because LeBron wanted him when he retired in 14. So I got nothing but respect for Ray. Sometimes he did shoot the ball too much. I remember Boston has a game too, and they beat the Lakers, and he could he get hot, but he could get streaky. So that's the only knock. But Ray was tough. He's underrated in some ways. There's a lot more to Ray too. Sam, the actor, talking about Sam Jackson, the actor, the one and only Samuel Jackson, Samuel Jackson. You know, I would say to me, yeah, I think he curses too much, and I think he tolerated too much from Quentin Tarantino. I'm not gonna knock him as an actor because he has to play the same role that got his bread buttered, and so I'm not gonna knock what he do. He's a good character actor. He's very good. And a funny thing is I saw Fred Williamson on Vlad, and Fred Williamson told Michael J. White that he didn't think Samuel Jackson was worth it all the box office, but Samuel Jackson's been in the most successful movies ever, total gross. But I know where Fred is coming from because he plays the same jive roles all the time, talking about Samuel Jackson. And he's kind of like, they let him kind of be a certain type. But you know, um, it's just basically about hey, some of his wording and the Quentin Tarantino thing. But overall, I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about him. He carved out his lane. He plays a certain role, and he's been in a lot of movies I've liked. You know, so but he got over at a certain time. So I don't, like I said, actors, it's a picky thing because again, it's just like a personal taste with that. It's not like athletes or musicians. And with acting, you really don't get a grasp to who they really are. So, I mean, you can say it about anybody that's creative, but it's a little bit different with actors because it's a lot of role and it's a hard gig. Used to call him Pimp to the Back. Mm, well, he was a great player. He was a great coach. I can't say nothing wrong in Seattle. He won a chip. He lost one to Washington. Um, and in Seattle, when he won with nothing wrong with him as a player, and that was before my time. But he was a great player. I trust people that mainly talked about him. I saw some highlights on him. He had good moves. He was agile. He was quick. You know, um, as a coach in Seattle, he had a good rotation. He had guys that would not normally be considered. He got a lot out of his guard play. Gus Williams and DJ back in the '70s with the Sonics, and then with Mookie Blaylock and them and in Atlanta. And so I always admire how he got. His teams were always competitive. It's just sometimes he went against better teams or situations, but he's underrated. He's underrated. He doesn't get his due. If you must know, we used to just call him Pimp to the Back because he had that smooth hairline that started right there. But I got nothing. You never hear no one say anything about Lenny Wilkins. I was impressed by what he did, though. The highlights I seen of him back in the day, he was like I said, he could play. And as a coach, I saw that. Charles Oakley, he still is on that Debo, still bully tactic. That's the problem I had with him. Like the dude is a cool cat. Like I guess if you friendly with him and you down with him and he loyal to a fault and he can cook too, because I seen his videos where he did those on YouTube and all that. However, the bully tactics and still saying Barkley, you'll never be Jordan's friend again, and Isaiah, you'll never be his friend again. It's like, man, come on, man. Just because you in the circle doesn't mean that you have to play this same old game. And he does that a lot. And that's one of my pet peeves about him. As a player, he was a protector and he played that role to a T. Different era of NBA. Different era. And more effective than Draymond. But Draymond's got a better scoring average. But Oakley was really a tough dude. And he could really go up against people. He is, but he slurps LeBron too. He's from Akron, and he gives LeBron, how that go. But only problem is it's whoever Jordan is, against Isaiah and Barkley, he's got something to say, and that gets a bit tiring. This guy gonna be 69, 79, still talking about pound you and all that. And I respect the tough guy and how he carries himself, and he's a good businessman, and I respect him. They from Akron. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. So did you watch my video when I talked about if LeBron had bought the Knicks, and I said the only reason why that would make sense? If you watch my video, I addressed that in the video. In the video, I said that if LeBron got to the Knicks, Adam Silver had James Dolan bought out with LeBron investing. I said, wouldn't it be something that LeBron could be a part owner, and then Oakley was made as a general manager or something, and they threw Devlin's behind out? Because you remember, that's the only reason why I thought that might be. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, they from Ohio together. Because when Braun won the chip in Cleveland, Oakley was there. Hmm. He politics a lot. Great basketball mind, great player, great GM, but he'll politic you a lot. I do believe that Showtime, that HBO show was accurate. I do believe he was, kind of like loose and how he was. I do think there's truth to that. They ran that off of HBO, but I do believe it had truth to it. Um, you know, but I mean, that's a little neither here nor there. Can't really have much knock against the man because the man obviously knows championship pedigree. I did the thing about where as I did in Two Rod, I was talking about how he got him. And I said he got Shaq because of Country Bumpkins in Orlando. And I said Jerry Russell was a slickster. So he got him. Dr. Bus, he just like Hugh Hefner. You know what makes him go. The girls had him wrapped up. That's all he cared about. He'd be out there. He wanted the fanfare, winning mindset. Don't get it twisted, and definitely modernize the NBA. Don't get it twisted. But it was always about all the sexies. He had to have like 30 of them chicks out there, and then groupies and thoughts and the 304s. Oh yeah, he was having his own mini Playboy in the stands. That's how he got down. But to his credit, the man made the Lakers big time business. To his credit, they got back to winning, and he did create Showtime. Yeah, well, she doesn't have 99 dudes hanging all over her like he did. He used to have the chicks in the stands. I used to see it, but yeah, she cut from the cloth. She know how to get the job done because her brothers were lames. That's what- brothers was running the Lakers like they were the Clippers. So so she did get, she did go to when she messing with Phil. Phil Jackson gave her some advice, and she got some brought magic in, and she got some say, and she had some advisors. So she is like her dad as far as getting it, keeping the cash flow going. They're scrubs. They're scrubs. Because it got so bad that not only with the whole with Kobe, them busters were about making that team look like they were going to Minusville. And Magic got in and told her, said, look, you got to take it over. They were scrubs. They weren't bums. They were scrubs. So they saved that situation because it could have been real disastrous. Yep. Yep. Sure enough. I'm not arguing. It was pretty brutal there for a minute. Pretty brutal. And they had to get some enforcers to get back in there because it wasn't looking good. It wasn't looking good. They had messed up badly. So that's what had happened. I heard about it. Hmm. Now they weren't gonna go bankrupt or nothing, but let's just say that they weren't looking too good, and they made some bad choices. They made some bad choices. So, yep. So yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. I'm not even gonna argue with you on that. I don't know what video he got. I don't know what evidence, compromised position she's got. I don't know what she did, how you got. See, and the thing about it is, this is what white privilege cracks me up. As a basketball player, he was just one of these white boys who was garbage time. He come in, make some dunks, people get excited, but he was not somebody that you sat around and thought he was going to be in the hierarchy of Lakers. Okay, I mean, if I'm going by the second tier on down, Laker guys who you would think that would get acknowledgement just because they play hard, AC Green would come up way before him. And to hear that he has this kind of pull, and he sucked as a coach too, by the way. He sucked. in Minnesota. He was horrible. I mean, uh, he makes yeah, that's the sad part. But remember, he got clotheslined by Larry Bird too. Kevin McHale had him. 'Cause Larry Bird called the Celtics out for being soft. And you look at that 84 finals, I'll never forget that one. That clothesline changed that series. Because Bird told McHale, get him out of there. And he clotheslined him, going for a look. Oh, he's going, imagine him with trying to be pretty and throw no look. And Rambus was on a fast break. And Kevin McHale was and took him out. You'll never see that today. Never. Adam Silver would have had Kevin McHale suspended for as long as Draymond. That would never happen today. He could say who he beat, but no. But it was, it was like, a funny white boy coming off, getting garbage time blown. Ain't nobody prepared. See, this is why people don't understand about privilege and jokes. 40 years ago, you see somebody like Rambish and you laugh and see him getting head coaching jobs and um getting um an advisory. You didn't see that. Now, um, he it's just like Donald Trump, but in the different capacity and way of life, but it's just different, you know what I mean? You can see those guys being blowed up 40 years later in big organizations. Just saying. But anyway, uh, I try not to think about Rambus though. Try not to. So, all right now. Hit me with some more questions because I didn't get that she froze up on me. Mm, I'd have to do it in a way where I really feel like I go to it. Because you got to be in these YouTube streets, and I don't really. But JJ Redick might have a place. Right now, Jokic has got a strong case. SGA is coming up. I know they want Jason Tatum. I already see the fixes on for that. That's what they really want. They want Tatum, Jokic, because Embiid's not around. That's the ones. And SGA is like the third long shot. Those are the ones right now. For me, it's Jokic. Denver's still the team to beat. I still believe it. Um, I like Jamal Murray a lot, but Jalen Brown and Porzingis are carrying more. But Denver already beat them. But I'm just saying, for me, it's Jokic. In all honesty, he wins another regular season MVP and wins the finals and does that again. He moves top 5 center ever, I believe, for me. And then he'll move up the chain in the teens as greatest players ever too. But that's where I'm going. Jokic right now. So if I did a White Scrubs video, they probably throw me off of YouTube. I might be there all week, non-stop. We might not even chat for a while if I did that because there's a lot of them in all professions. Just saying. Mediocrity at its utmost. But yeah, I'd have to say Jokic right now. Yeah, I laughed about that mess. I might do a video about that. I mean, Austin is mad because he know what he said about his daddy. But this is the thing. JJ's better than Austin, but that ain't saying nothing. Please don't ask me who's better than them two, because JJ Redick looks like um JJ Redick looks like Dirk Nowitzki compared to Austin. I mean, Austin Rivers never was. He had privilege having the last name and his dad. He did hook up a little bit, but come on now. Austin Rivers makes Seth look like he's closer to Steph, okay? It's just not even funny. But I laughed about that though. I did. JJ get defiant too. I saw that on there with Stephen A and Mad Dog, you know. But you see, I can't never take JJ, even though that whole thing with Doc, because Doc done made himself look bad because of how things done turned out. I mean, let's keep it 100. Doc ain't exactly, rolling nines, as a coach right now. He did. And you see how scrubby he is too. Come on now. Because you're in an era where you got to do is shoot nothing but threes. You ain't even got to have no game now. You just got to know how to shoot the three ball. And he could do that okay, but no one's going to touch him because he just don't have no real game. So if he can't even make it big in this era, JJ Redick had a little bit of a career, a little bit. Austin had a no career. You suck in this day and time, what it would have been like if you tried to play 15, 20 years ago. He wouldn't have had about as length as Kobe Carl did. So, just saying. I really don't even like to think. I really don't. He's not really somebody that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, you know. Glad he got a gig. That's all I can say. And sometimes they do put, with the last name or something, but I just don't. He's not who I look for commentating. But they have a certain type of cat they like to have on those networks, though. They do. You know. Some about them having third tier type of basketball players as commentators is something they like. I can't explain it. I'll let you say that because he had one of the East Bay dunk, and he could have been a really good player once upon a time. Now, I did agree with what he said about Phil Jackson. That's no story. But I think he kind of, I don't know, he just didn't really put his effort into it because he's one of those guys, he could have been in the really good to almost very good category. Well, CP3 got to stop choking in the postseason. How about that? I mean, fumbling the ball and dribbling the ball off and getting outplayed or just looking lost or looking old. So that's the reason. I mean, everything is set up for CP3. I can't think of another cat that's had everything set up for him but to win, and he just couldn't get it done. He couldn't lead his team. He's been set up for it. Cause let me tell you something. If they had a beaten Milwaukee a few years ago, they're gonna have him top five ever as a point guard. They were already anointing him. And I heard Charles Barkley said there's no better leader in the game than CP3, and I had to hear that mess for years. I'm like, I don't know what your TV set you looking at, because I always thought he was a bit of a diva. He was a great player. He had some hops. White boy had some spring in him. Uh, I have to examine that as far as him as a head coach because I mean he went to the finals. I mean when they addressed getting Moses Malone over Dawkins and Caldwell Jones, he won a ring. He had went to multiple finals. He won a ring. So, and again, different era, different era. That's pre Pat Riley winning multiple rings. That's pre Phil Jackson winning multiple rings. Pre Popovich win multiple rings, Spo winning multiple rings, Steve Kerr. So I don't really put that in the same. It's a different era. When a cat back then won a ring, it was kind of like what Larry Bird won in Detroit, and also Billy Cunningham before Daly won. Daly was assistant on Philly too. So different era. You win a ring back then, you were a made man. I just don't think Collins was that deep as a coach. I think he was a really good coach, but I don't think he could get his message through. I saw what happened with the Bulls, same thing with Detroit, and then with Washington. And he always kind of his fuse was light. He X's and O, but there's always like a shortcoming with something. I remember Kwame Brown made him cry, and Jordan had to get in between them. Doug was an emotional wreck, you know. One of those guys and he was all right as a player, but as a coach, I just saw him get kind of overwhelmed. He's one of those kind of guys that, um, what I call the broke version of Kyle Shanahan. But it's the same situation. If somebody come along that knew what they're doing, that team goes all the way and wins. He can coach an ego. He had Michael Jordan when he was in his young days, and he had Grant Hill. Okay, that's all you need to know. He got way more opportunity than a lot get. Okay, I'm just gonna say it like that. And it wasn't, you know, I love Shula. Can't find nothing wrong with him because he was a coach that I mean, when you can take Bob Greasy, uh, Earl Morrall, and then David Woodley, because I remember that Super Bowl in '82 against Washington and David Woodley. I mean, that's back when he had an unknown, undrafted, and that was a big deal. Shula was a uh, credible coach. So it's nothing, when you have a perfect season. I mean, what can I say about that guy? He was very defiant about how he felt about Belichick, though. And if you don't know, you better look that up. He wasn't feeling Belichick. I think sometimes he plays political in the sense that he doesn't really want to go too far with one thing, but he has to hear people's cries. I know, like, where he came to the quarterback cries, the lack of offense, they were venting, and sometimes he let certain things go. Sometimes he didn't. It was where Big Ben was concerned, what AB was concerned. So I think that's the only thing. But he's a heck of a coach, though. I mean, other than that, I really came from because I got nothing but respect for him. And like I said before, as I was telling the cat that was here last night, I said, Randolph. I mean, he got them to the playoffs this year. Well, because he was a top tier player. You don't treat second, third tier guys like you do superstars. And AB was a big time player. You said yourself he was your favorite receiver in the 2010s. You're not. Jimmy Johnson said that a long time ago too. We don't treat the guys don't get treated the same. You'll tolerate a lot more of a guy that has an AB type than you would a guy who was less than. I'm just saying. Guy who's like run of the mill, bum scrub, his butt could get cut. AB, you'll tolerate unless he does something like he did in Tampa Bay where he, took his jersey off and antics. You know, but it depends on who we talking about. And I'm not gonna argue that he called. I think that he sometimes is a little too defiant for his own good. He should be in the Hall of Fame and everything, but sometimes I think the less he says, the most he says. That's the only thing. But he should be a Hall of Famer, and he's been, you know, treated like he committed murder or something, and they need to let him in. Charlie Hustle. To me, Pete Rose was to baseball as Larry Bird was to basketball. You know, and your old quarterback, I would say, would fit that description too, and that'd be Brett Favre because he really played football like that. Those guys kind of went at it a certain way. Not saying they were necessarily always the best overall, but um, they're stuck up butt ways about how they want to put people in, and they're trying to act like the steroids or trying to say that they got this, they're pious and pious, and it's not like that. It's a click, and it's not always about the actual numbers. They got these rules that they want to put in. But some guys get in the Hall of Fame who were not great players. There's a difference between being great and good. There's a big difference, you know. And a Hall of Famer from a guy that was good. So I have a problem with the agenda, you know. So everything has an asterisk if we're gonna be technical, because if they put white baseball players in before Jackie Robinson played, that's all asterisk because they didn't get to play against black players. And then when you start talking about amphetamines and pills in the 60s, 70s, you could asterisk that. And you get up to steroids, however you want to do it, but don't act like you're squeaky clean. You're not. You're not. So I have a problem with that. And I always will. They're the worst of the Hall of Fames. Well, we talked about Hank. I told you my only thing is his Bud Selig, that whole thing. But you know, I read his book. I had nothing but respect for him. Um, he overcame a lot. He was in the Negro Leagues. He was a consistent player, and he went through a lot. You getting death threats chasing Babe Ruth. I'm not gonna. Overall, I got nothing to really knock him about. I think the thing with him and Barry Bonds, he could have. He knew Bonds was a great player, and he knew that Bonds put the work in. People who are going to be honest are going to be honest about that. So that's all I got to say about that. But I got nothing bad to say about Hank Aaron. If we lived in a dignified society, he'd be more revered. Yeah, he kind of went there with Selig, and it was kind of an awkward situation. But I mean, again, uh, he stayed on. He kind of was on the fence with stuff, you know. But it took someone like Bonds to make white folks appreciate Hank Aaron. That's the truth, because they hated his guts for passing Babe Ruth, and and Bowie Kuhn, who was the commissioner, didn't do no justices by Hank Aaron either. They didn't even go to the games. When he hit a 700 home run or something. I remember all the highlights because I was real young. But then I got more aware as time went on. But you know, so they didn't do right by Hank Aaron. Well, you already know. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Pete Rose, Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, Mark McGuire. There you go, right there. I mean, pretty much some of the greatest players ever. So I really don't take that Hall of Fame serious. To be honest with you, there's some odd problems I have with all the major pro sports, if you must know. My baseball issues because of stuff like that, and the quality that went down. You know, they still the only league though where parity does work because they can have teams win a World Series though, so I'll give them that. But it's just not the same caliber. So I mean, it's been a joke because when they had that year they put Shaq and Yao and Iverson together, I don't even know if Yao was qualified to get in. They wanted to have those three in together. It's been a joke. Been a joke. But I agreed with LeBron did say something. Say if you're Hall of Fame, yeah, you can go in while you're playing. They'll make you wait 5 years or whatever. I mean, if a guy's a Hall of Fame, he should be able to get in. You never know what can happen. check Kobe Bryant. So, you never know. Guys who are great and they can play, you should go ahead and do that up. I hate it when guys have to be gone from the game and they got to sit there and let these nerds decide if they go in. And then they're programming, they're told, well, he's in, he's not, he's in, he's not, he's in, he's not. So, but, you know, I don't really care no more. Yeah, see, that's a good example. He won in Toronto. So, what was the wait about? People don't like it when you question, but that's the problem. He should have been in. I mean, he won 2 rings. I mean, come on now. But, like I told you before, it's a lot of politics. So it's nothing to really. He should be. I don't know if he's in or not. That's a good question. I don't even know. Well, as a manager, he will never get in as a player, but as a manager, but they'll probably make him wait. You know, he should be in though. He's one of the winningest managers ever. When he got the ring, that should seal the deal. So, but he had some kind of cancer, but he should be. Yeah, but again, well, we never take life. You never know if life. So but they should go ahead and put him in though. They should. I mean, he's been far involved in the game. He's managed. He's been to a few World Series. The man should be in. That's how I feel. And I'm gonna miss him for managing. Gonna miss him. He's one of my favorites. No, 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 no. He was a good player. Now I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why he was good. Because he played outfield and he hit. He wasn't a because at the time, they had a really strong team with Steve Garvey, Ron Say, Bill Russell, David Lopez. Okay. So he wasn't, what we call a power hitter, but he was better than average. You're going by that era compared to now, yeah, he'll look like a bum. If you go by how he was then, it was a different era. Shortstops back then, if I told you shortstops back then averaged about 2 to 3 home runs and maybe about 15 to 20 RBIs, stole about 60 something bases, but golden gloves, you look at Ozzie Smith as a bum if you weren't around to see it. So I have to enlighten that no, he wasn't no bum. He was good. He just wasn't great. He had some big moments in postseasons, and he was it was a different time, and it wasn't a lot of guys hitting a lot of home runs at that time. It was a different era, different because you can't compare then to now. There were some players that just was better, but he was good. He was good for his time. He was good. The Dodgers were a perennial, threat to go, and he fit in good. He fit in good, you know. So I remember, you know. I mean, you can look up stats and stuff, and like I said, you'll see some guys, think, well, how come this and that? But I'm gonna tell you, it was different time. It's like you can't compare. It's just like in basketball. You may look at somebody back then and go, oh, well, they this and that. But then I have to tell you that it was a different era because of the way they defended, the way they played against people. Yeah, see, there we go. I guess that's the lead because I lived in Houston. I remember Brochi. They had another catcher named Alan Ashby. But catchers back then, for the most part, aside from Johnny Bench, Thurman Munson had some pop. Gary Carter came a little bit later. Most of the catchers were not big power hitters. Okay. It wasn't like that was the, you had guys, catchers and shortstops back then were not tagging that rock like that. Really weren't. They really weren't asked to be like that. That came over more so, more so. Because there were more guys that were just, I remember. But yeah, he's a great coach. I mean, he's one of the greatest baseball coaches ever. I never saw that coming. So that just goes to show you how high you look at somebody and you think, you laugh at him as a player. He would know he was average, average Joe, middle of the road Joe, just average. He was an average player, an average manager. You saw it happen in Philadelphia, you know, because he couldn't get the flip on Bryce Harper in Philly. They got rid of Joe. They got better. Or was it Philly or Cincinnati? He just was average, you know. Even when the Yankees won, I just looked at him as just an average Joe. To be a bum, he would have had to show me some greatness. I never thought he was going to be great or good. He just was average Joe who got hooked up. That's all. An average Joe who had, right pieces at the right time. So, but that's funny that you mentioned him because I hadn't really, me and Girardi, yeah. And he happened to be there when we won the last ring. And that was funny that he was there. Um, Even though he's won rings, I've always thought Tony La Russa was a bit overrated. Should have won more. Should have been more dominant. Bill Burton back in the day with the Astros. Uh, Let me think. Mm, Buck Showalter. Because, I mean, you had golden opportunities and you didn't get it done. And you still keep getting chances. And I'm baffled. Gotta have video on people. Um, hmm. Uh, um, Let me see. Who else could I pick on that comes to mind? Um, I want to say, I think it was Dick Williams. I think the one he used to, Montreal Expos when he had Andre Dawson, Gary Carter, and him. I think he just underachieved, so he come into the mix. Um, hmm. Don Mattingly, because it just didn't turn over from a player to a manager, and they tried hard to put him there. Jack Haley, I told you about Haley with the Bulls because he was Dennis Rodman's chaperone. And that's like, this scrub got a ring. Adam Morrison, um, come to mind. It's gonna mainly be basketball because baseball, you play a lot of. Yeah, thank you. And I had a buddy used to joke about Sasha all the time. He bragged about him hitting those 2 free throws to beat Boston in 2010. I'm like, "Yeah. Yeah, it's mainly basketball more than any sport. Cause see, baseball, I can't really say because a guy can come up big. You might not think much of him, but he has his place. Baseball's a different animal, so he has a moment. It's hard to argue against it. Football, it's only like when somebody like Doug Peterson, who was, you know, Brett Favre's backup, and he was holding a clipboard, and then you got guys like, um, mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's kind of like guys like that. Basketball is worse. It really is. It's worse in basketball. Football, you're not gonna really knock it because usually, you know, unless you consider game managers to be scrubs, but usually in football, the guy ain't that horrible that's got it. You know, it ain't. But if the NFL ever has somebody like Baker Mayfield with a ring, oh yeah, yeah, you know. So they haven't had that yet. Well, Brock Oswald, if you want to, because he did back up Peyton Manning. So if you want to say that, but he was, he was. So was Phil Jackson too. So most great coaches who are successful in pro sports were scrubs. That's a fact. Um, that's just kind of how it go. Don't ask me why. That most of 'em. Now I don't consider Steve Kerr a scrub. He was okay because he was a role player. But most of the times, guys that were, you know, they were, except for Kurt Rambis because he sucked. I'm afraid you're right about him because even though he's gotten the 2 finals and he won a ring, his poor decision making with the Clippers, with the Sixers, and he's on the high. You don't know how Milwaukee gonna be. Yeah, he done lost a lot, and that whole thing with Orlando. Yeah, I'm afraid you're right. And I hate to say it about a brother and how hard it was to get what he's gotten, but I'm a firm believer he's got some video and some compromising positions with some people because I don't know how many chances he gonna keep getting. And if he blows this thing with Milwaukee, and the only other coaching job he should get would maybe in Toronto or somewhere that you can't even pronounce because it's past embarrassing. Yeah, he did. See, if he'd have done that deal and Duncan goes in and wins 2 or 3 rings, then Doc's looked upon as one of the 6 best coaches ever. That's how that one missteps got him from being in a higher argument. Now he just barely dangling as one of the 15 greatest, if he's that or lower. He'd have had Duncan and then maybe go to Boston and win. You give him about 3 or 4 rings. With his portfolio and his notoriety, been bigger. So, but anyway, I'm afraid you're right about him though. Yeah, because they had a lot of people fail to realize. So Shaq left, that was a big thing, Penny, but they were able to get Grant and T Mac and then would have had Duncan. Think about how quick they could have turned their franchise around, you know. But you go and you keep on coaching, and this one guy comes along, goes to 6 finals and wins 5-1. You stuck at one. You blew one, and that's all you got. Duncan's resume and your resume, okay. You know, just saying. Popovich's resume, your resume, just saying. So, and That's why you gotta be smart, you know. I think he thought he was gonna be like Pat Riley, and it backfired. You don't know how you think you're gonna be like Pat Riley because you had to inherit players to come to your team anyway. Nobody was homegrown. Grant Hill had played for Detroit, and he was kind of like, I don't want to say cast off, but it was not really happening. And T Mac was too young in Toronto, so he got up there and put it in, build his thing up. Duncan was fresh off of the finals, had showed he could play with the big boys, etc. Had a great college career, so Grant did too. So you know, but you have to be on the same page. Or if he had to do it again tomorrow, he would. All shucks. We talked about David. I told you, Mr. All Shucks, Mr. Nice guy, just fit a certain character. Like he was just so passive, which he wasn't, but it's just kind of like this passive thing that he played on TV. Great talent. I think my biggest knock is that he didn't always take it to people because he's kind of underrated. I mean, he's one of those guys, he was an athletic freak. He won a scoring title. The guy could flat out play and very athletic. I just don't think we always got the most of it. And I think sometimes he kind of shrugged off what he really could have done, you know. Um, I think that he gets caught up in I know he had overcome a lot to get to play. And I understand that because he wasn't looked upon as a prototypical pro basketball player. But he worked on one thing and he did it great. He rebounded, he worked on his body, and he always wanted to prove people wrong. But sometimes I think that he gets caught up in still trying to downplay certain things. That whole thing with Larry Bird was wrong. Because if we say Larry Bird belonged in Europe right now, well, Larry Bird would dominate the league. And so he was smart in it, but he's still carrying something that I don't quite understand why. So I think he misses on character estimation. But a great talent, though. One of my favorite players ever. And Rodman's one of the greatest ever. And I do hold him in high regard. And it's a lost art what he did. He was a very unique player because the way he could use his arms and move, uh, it was like ballet in the air. He could volley that ball. He could get under your skin. He knew all the mind jetta tricks. I just told you, just didn't come up in the postseason. Great regular season back, just didn't have the mental tenacity to finish off the postseason. Because if he had a ring, we'd be talking about him a lot higher. Because he was a great talent. He was a great talent. And I think we had talked about Tom Ladanian, but he just didn't come up in the postseason. That's all. So, and I have to use a deduct for that because I'm looking at a guy like, you got the regular season MVP, you were on a very competitive team, and you talked a lot of trash, but you didn't get it done. So, and that might not be fair, but that's how the cookie crumbles. So, are they still doing that now? Are they still doing that now? I will address that. Let me know. Give me a yes if they're still doing it. Let me know because I'm going to address that. Uh, Shannon and okay, Shannon and Ocho were talking about the age difference because Mahomes is like a few months older than Burrow. Burrow got to stay healthy first. His offensive line sucks. They got a meaty receiving core. I don't know. This is just them trying to trying to push an agenda. I'm sorry, but one guy got 3 rings, 4 Super Bowl appearances to 1 appearance, and 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 regular season MVPs. What am I not getting? What were we talking about? So this is like Tiger Woods and Phil Nicholson, and Burrow's supposed to be Phil. And you remember how big that gap was. This gap might be even bigger than that, especially if Mahomes wins another ring before Burrow gets to another Super Bowl. I don't know why we're having this discussion. I don't see it. I like Burrow too. He's very poised. He's one of those kind of quarterbacks. He's in the wrong era though, and he came out like 20 years ago. He probably got a couple rings, and he'd have been very poised because he was a prototypical type of quarterback that you would have wanted 20 years ago. He still is, but at the style. I'm talking about the style. But he's injury prone. His offensive line sucks. I don't trust his head coach. Their defense is kind of janky. And that division ain't no joke. And you better hope Cleveland don't ever get their quarterback position straight because then you're in trouble. And of course, you got Lamar in Baltimore. And if Pittsburgh is halfway average, so, you know, just saying. But have him over Mahomes in what category? I mean, Mahomes just got to winning his 3rd ring and his 3rd Super Bowl MVP. What? Mahomes is driving down the street with all this in his eyes, all the bling, and he can't see Joe Burrow. He can't see him. Well, remember, he was out the league for 2 years. One of it because of the so-called suspension. The second because they initiated something. His timing is off. His cadence is off. I'm not ready to give up on him quite yet, but I will say this: if he don't get it together by next year, then Joe Flacco or whoever come in might have to, and I'm gonna be afraid to say it because I like Deshaun a lot, but I do think that they put like an extra year on him. We haven't really seen Deshaun in about 3 years, and wasn't that long ago he had a 24-0 lead against Mahomes, and he was balling, and he looked like he was gonna be a problem. Doing what? Doing what? What was he doing? What's he doing? Tell me what he's doing. What Johnny Manziel? What Johnny Manziel gonna? Oh, so Johnny Manziel gonna be like the white version of Cat Williams and diss all the white quarterbacks that were scrubs. That nobody wants to hear what Johnny Money Manziel got to say. He didn't have a career. The turkey got exposed for being a fraud, threw in the cover two, threw a lot of picks, took a lot of interceptions, and got walked out the league. What is there to this is why this is why it's a waste of that's a waste of camera time and space. If I want to see Johnny Manziel's NFL career, give me 3 minutes on a highlight reel. And half of that reel is gonna be his draft. The other half is when he was walking out the huddle and when his commercials. Ain't nobody talking about his career. Career. That's comedy. That's funny. Thank you for giving me the message about that. I'll make sure I won't watch that episode. I had a Buffalo Bills jersey I had it given to me as a gift long time ago. Got a Heat shirt, Heat jersey, and had old Yankee pinstripes way back in the day. And a Michigan jersey I had too. So those are 4 of my favorites. But I haven't, like as far as like, yeah, I had some nice shirts, Bills jerseys, and there was a Yankee one. Yeah, Bills, Yankees. Had a Heat T-shirt and I had a Michigan T-shirt. But I didn't really buy a lot of jerseys though. That wasn't my thing. Cost a lot of money, and plus You know how they are about trading players and stuff, so I wouldn't want to get caught with that like that. But I had some cool shirts though. I had some cool shirts. Had a D Wade shirt I had custom made, which was tight back when. Hmm. Had some good Heat shirts. Well, D Wade was one, and the Shaq one I had. Had a cool LeBron shirt when he first came to Miami, which was tight. Had a Bosch. I had some cool stuff done. The probably the red road ones that they wore in '06 in the finals. And then I like the white ones that they wore against OKC, the white ones they wore against OKC. Those are my favorite Heat jerseys. Those two. The red on the road. The black one was cool too. That powder Miami Vice blue sometimes be hurt my eyes that they rock sometime at home. Like they've been snorting some cocaine or something. So I don't know. So you watching the Johnny Manziel one on Club Shay Shay? Is that what you telling me? Did you watch it? How was it? I'm sure they probably asked him about Baker Mayfield or something. That probably was hilarious. I give it to you. You a trooper. If I saw that mess come on my screen, I would go scroll. I ain't gonna lie. I got nothing I want to hear what Johnny Man had to say. Cause his God, his career didn't even last long enough. Uh dang. His career didn't even last long as LimeWire. The half of MySpace. So and Baker was like a clone of his. I'm sure I know why never mind. Yeah, he was. Oh, it makes sense now. I understand why he was on Shay Shay. I get it now because him and LeBron, because LeBron was slurping him up. Now it makes sense. I forgot all about that. My bad. What was I thinking? That's why he got put on. It ain't got to do with his careers because he was a, yeah, LeBron. He was. He lived that life. He thought he was like Jerry Lee Lewis of quarterbacks. And he was like this wildcat. Um, what was that? The cat with the Packers back in the '60s. I can't think his name now. The receiver, because he was a party boy and like wild too. He played with Bart Starr. Can't think of that white boy right now. You'll call his name out, but that's kind of like what he was emulating in his way too, because he used to gamble and be high on the hog. Can't think his name right now, but um, yeah, he was out of control. He was out of control. But that's the reason why he got the gig because even I want to know they're gonna talk about LeBron because LeBron was big on him, but he wasn't even a bum with Cleveland. He was a scrub. He was a scrub because once the pros got a wind of how he threw them, he tried to dart them past. First of all, he came in trying to do like a broke Andrew Luck, trying to like throw bullets and stuff, and it's like, yo, man, you got to scramble, do dink and dunks. His arm juice wasn't that strong, so. But yeah. That sucks. It's boring. And this ain't Oprah where everybody gets 30 points a game and everybody's good enough. I mean, we already had a discussion. Cat scores 50 points and he doesn't even get MVP. I mean, how embarrassing is that? And if he don't score 50 points, the West gets blowed out by 75. Think about that. You take his 50 off and they lost by 25. That's oh God, that's almost oh Lord. That's embarrassing. So It's embarrassing. Adam Silver need to be pimp slapped for this mess. They need to put that thing either at the end of the season when nobody cares, or just, it's just bad. It's brutal. There's no ambassador. Nobody cares no more. But I'm not mad at Anthony Edwards. I'm more mad with Adam Silver and the veteran guys. They don't care. Mr. Cigar, Mr. He was cocky, but he changed the course of basketball. He's arguably the most important non-basketball player to ever be. He's in at a conversation with David Stern. He well, he was, he backed up his back though. I mean, how he still pulled that Larry Bird trade off a year before, that's still gangster. Okay, well nobody, that was a different NBA. But the man knew how to draft, he knew how to build a championship roster. I can't uh I can't oh freaky deaky Marv. Love that kinky stuff. Oh kinky Marv. Oh super freak Marv. Yes. Yes. Um He's a great analyst. Pervy Ways may have gotten him canceled today, but and his Pervy Ways and his toupee may have got him in trouble today, but Marv's a great announcer. Can't really, you know, Marv did his thing. So they, no one said no more about Marv. He was a great announcer. Had a distinctive voice, charismatic, you know, freaky though. Low key good old boy, and I know that Patrick Mahomes gets at him. And I think he side eyes a lot of stuff. He's kind of got this look on his face like he don't like what he's got to do, but he's got to do it. But the guy got a lot out of his talent. He really did. He wasn't the best quarterback by no stretch, but he put a lot of work in. He's one of those guys that no one outworked him. No, he wasn't the best, but no one outworked him. He made himself credible. So I got respect. Well, the Mahomes thing. Did you hear what he said about Mahomes? Because it's a quote. You got to Google it. He uh, he said, "Let me see what he does when he starts winning rings or something. When he gets to half of what I got." He wasn't that keen on Brady either. You know, Aikman. Oh, gotta remember something. I mean, you're a California kid. You know, and you know, not gonna say I'm not calling him racist or nothing, but that statement that he made against Mahomes was like, you know. So it'd be interesting the next time that Mahomes now's got as many rings as him, been to more Super Bowls than him, and more accomplished than him when he first started. But I'll never call him a bum. They sucked at first. They got great. I think the Barry Switzer era was the most challenging because he had to have choreography to actually move and run. And then, of course, he got all those concussions. He was not the same guy. That's why he got out of playing because he was getting beat up. But he was a tough white boy. I will give him his due. He was a tough cat. He definitely filled his role and he, came up. He just ain't never gonna be on nobody's top 5 or so list as greatest quarterbacks ever because he played with a stacked situation. That's just a fact. He's almost lumped with Terry Bradshaw, you know, in that regard because the squad was so good that, you know, talking about him is not the same. I think the only knock I gave him now is that whole thing with Kelsey because that was a lot worse than what it was. And I might do a video about that because come to find out, the NFL covered that storage up. Um, but you can't really find fault with him now. You talk about redemption tour. The guy got 3 rings. He sits at the table with the greatest of the greats. So, How you gonna have an issue with a guy who redeemed himself tenfold, hundredfold, got 3 rings now? Now it was white privilege. He bumped that man, and I heard it was a lot worse than they said. There's a I had got a clip sent where they said the NFL covered it up. It was worse. Even Skip Bayless and they were talking about it if he was black, because it's true. It was a lot more deeper than it was. But because they got rings and they've been successful and he's involved with America's sweetheart, stuff gets kind of whitewashed. So you heard about Andy Reid's son, though. You remember that one son that was a wannabe and he got in trouble for pseudo gangbanging or something he did, got in trouble. That was crazy. It happened some years ago. I don't know if you ever heard that about his son. One of his sons did some time. It was crazy. So I don't know. But Andy, you can't say nothing about him now. He's a made man. He a made man now. Yeah, and he wanted to be a brother. He did some, I don't know, he was watching some old hood movies. Some he was into. It was crazy. They talked about it. But mhm. But Andy's a made man though. He's a made man now. He sits at the table with the best of the best. You know, he got 3 rings in the 5 Super Bowl. Probably gonna do some more damage. And he's at the table. That's all I can say. I told you that's how big that win was. Yeah, just like Belichick's son, who has the mullet, and he sucked too. Belichick's son did. You don't know what he did, but yeah, they hook him up. They hook him up. It's like Shanahan got hooked up. And Kyle ain't bad. It's just that he can't finish. That's the problem. Even McVay blew finished. McVay got a ring. He's becoming he should be a made man. He should be a made man. He wins one of them Super Bowls and they put him great because they've been the best team in the NFC. And you could arguably say the best team in the NFL. They just can't seal the deal. So yeah, he 4 NFC championship appearances, 2 NFC champions, but 2 blown Super Bowls with 2 10-point leads. That's not going to fly. So yeah, he is a bum coach considering the hype he gets. He should have been. You're right. You're right. And all he had to do was either win one more college bowl, beat Texas, or beat New England. He wins either one of those with 2 chips and one of those other and 3 chips, he would be because the body of work would be so huge that it would be hard not to because he made 2 programs dominant, but he left money on the table. And therefore, he has an asterisk. But you're right, though. He wins that SC against Texas and he beats New England. He has 4 rings. You'd be talking about him in rare company. He'd have jumped Jimmy Johnson threefold and would have been where Andy Reid is. His 2 rings and 2 would have been at that table, but he's not now. Yeah, he was in college, you know, but I got respect for Vermeil. It was a different era. Different era. I can't compare the eras because he didn't have Pete Carroll had a chance to make it look better because he was in a more flashy and you can stockpile rings now. You can stockpile if you're good. If you got it going on. See, there's always one guy who gets it. And that's why it's like they stockpile him because they get it. Not too many people are on that level. So, so that's how I look at it. Now, um, he'll get great. Calipari will get great, but they're not made men. Dean Smith's a made man. Bobby Knight's a made man. Those are made men. John Wooden, that's a made man. Krzyzewski, that's a made man. They're not made. They Italian and they look like they made. They not. Just saying. Patino should have been though. He should have been. Should have had multiple rings, but he's controversial, polarizing, and they're not really talking about it. Too much you know, no, no. He doesn't belong in the conversation with those guys that have multiple and dominated. He doesn't belong in that conversation. He does Calipari. Close, close, close. I mean, you can make a case, but the ones I mentioned were more dominant. He had a chance. I mean, he kind of blew some chances, but eh, eh, he's more closer to that bag with Patino and Calipari than he is with those guys I mentioned to me. But I wouldn't argue with you if you thought he was. But you got to understand when you're a made man, you sit at the table. There is no that you're just great because great, there's a lot of great. But when you're a made man or a made woman, you are at the table. They can't sit down to have their meal or their water or their drink or their food without you being present. So that's what I mean by made. And ain't but so many there. Now, now, great though. Great. Would have been if he had a probably won about a couple more rings with his MVPs in the regular season. Would have been. Would have been. Because like I said, he just the teams just didn't win, and that's the thing. He beats Bird in Boston. Oh yeah. All he needed, he went Bird in Boston, or he go to Philly and win. He has about a couple rings, and then you put the body of work. Oh yeah. Because when you factor in the league MVPs, finals MVP, ABA, all that, then it would have been. He needed another ring. But he was great. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. It's just that when we say made people great, great. I mean, think about what he did. And if he played today, oh man. I mean, he could score. He had handles. I mean, he was a very ahead of his time talent. He'd be scary today. Because you got 3-point line and you can't guard people. And he was a lefty and he could he'd be tearing it up today. He'd be tearing it up. Take you left, take you right, pick pop. You know. Problem with him is that by the time he did get to the Celtics, he was older in his career. He just didn't play. When you play with certain scrub teams, they don't do nothing. But just saying, but he was a freak of nature. One of my favorites. Athletic, skills, underappreciated. Great player. She's annoying and it's kind of like, but she has nowhere else to go. The white boys ain't gonna take her on no show, so she's stuck with the brothers, and that's where she's at. She's not going anywhere. But when she left NFL Network, came over to ESPN and got with Jalen, and I don't know what's going on with Stephen A, but she's where she's at, and she holds it down for what she do. She's you know, but she's annoying. She's annoying. He think he deeper than if you didn't watch him play, like in Duke, he was a good player. I'll give you that. NBA career, he was a third string average Joe at best. But thanks to Steph Curry and 3-point ball, this turkey got like someone needs mouth to mouth resuscitation. Steph Curry blew life back into him being a 3-point specialist. That's how he kept a career going. Because if it wasn't for the 3-point ball taking off, his butt would have been like a lot of them old dookies and would have probably been a scrub that you forgot about after 5 years. But because the 3-point ball became big, he stuck around. So he was an average player by default because of the 3 ball. As an analyst, he think he deeper than he is. He ain't that deep. And that remark about the 60s players being plumbers and uh all that dissing, I like what Jerry West said about him. And Bob Cousy came out of the old folks home and dissed him too. They bust his cakes right now. No one cares about. The only JJ they cared about was Kid Dynamite Evans. No one knows about no JJ Redick because he was a marginal, token okay player, white boy when he played. So for him to pop gums is hilarious. Him talking trash is hilarious. And he tries to be all deep, like he got some deep thoughts about the NBA. I'm like, man, please. Because he tries to get like he's a Baptist preacher, like a sermon. And I'm like, you one of the greatest meme muggers I ever seen in baseball. I'll give you that. But your career point average, what you do, no one, I mean, see, this is the thing. They be bringing up busters who had like their career highlights is like 2 minutes long, maybe three if I'm being kind. And half of that's because the jerseys they put on and when they got drafted. No one remembers their game. Wasn't memorable. Kendrick be all deep because he played for everybody. Yeah, he can talk about LeBron and Durant because he played for all the he had a little Forrest Gump moment, but it wasn't because he was so vital. He had Garnett and like pay that cat no mind. So he be trying to be all deeper than what he is. You know. They don't put people that you want to put up there. So let's just say that. I'd rather hear Tiny Archibald talk about basketball, if he could, than them turkeys. Their cats I would listen to. Well, she's only there because of the imagery. It's got nothing to do with her skill set. She looks like Shade Steel. They have a type. They have a type. Just like Richard Jefferson's behind. They got him up there. He's annoying too. He was a good Junior Whopper version of Vince Carter, Kobe type. Athletic but one dimensional, boring, square. They hooked him up. That's what they like. He is. And he shuffles along with Reggie Miller. I didn't really address it too much about Reggie and Kenny, but I did go into Two Raw. Had that thing about I left my thoughts about Reggie over there on that one because I ain't really want to. I don't know if I want to talk about Reggie Miller and Kenny Smith about that whole thing with Steph and that girl shooting that 3 ball out. They try too hard. They think that if they do it over top, they're gonna somehow get the massa to pat them on, give them a too full cookie when they get crumbs. They just try too hard. It's always like you got to go over the board to hate on black folk and to appeal to an audience that will never respect you. That's one of the many. The other is that you feel like you have to act more than you are acting. So, but no, I don't really talk about Richard Jefferson. Because he's annoying. He's got that stoic, dry humor, which he tries to be funny. He talking about he was gonna bust Michael Jordan's behind and Michael Jordan's 61. I'm like, You might, but I'm not so sure you could. I'm not so sure you could right now. If Jordan don't put away too many cigars, he might still put, bust you up. But see, that's how bad it is for him. He has to say that mess. Because again, you know, he was built alone being a sidekick on teams. Kid did wonders with him, and he had his moments being a sidekick. Well, they tend to say too much and they put their hands in the wrong places. And it's not always on the barbecue or the brew. They put their hands on the wrong people, if you know what I mean. And then they tend to talk loud and arrogant and ignorant. So don't invite them pervy uncles to your cookouts. Chances are they're going to be reaching and grabbing for more things, and you're going to have to put some hands on them and get them thrown out. So there's always somebody like that. Like, come here, girl. Eyes get all bulging. Come sit on your lap. Say all kinds of cringy things. Look all cringy. Eat all cringy. But somebody invited them. You know what they about too. They're the ones that's perv alert go off. When they come in and sit down on the picnic chair, the perv alert goes, perv alert, perv alert. You heard about the Amber Alert? Perv alert go off. So that's happened. That has happened. Yep. Look, your chest is nice and healthy. You look real healthy, girl. Come over here and give your uncle some sugar. Come here, girl. Come here, girl. Girl. Yeah, girl. You come on over here, girl. Yeah, you little something. Yeah. And they'd be like, Uncle Chester, watch that. Oh, I ain't mean that. I ain't mean. Hands be all over like an octopus. He spiked the punch, spiked the bar. If you eat the meat, he spikes that. He spiked everything. Coleslaw. You have Wooz eating the slaw, Wooz eating the pound cake. Flies and him are fighting for it. Oh yeah. Now she can be about 250 pounds. She'll grab you and squeeze you. Got an Eddie Griffin mustache. Like, come here, sweetie. And just squeeze you. So you little something, boy. You little something. You feeling out. You get, yeah. Cuss everybody out. Make sure you sit next to your auntie on Sunday. I'll be at church. Come sit next to me. Freak. Talk crazy. Talk crazy. hmm They tend to overdrink and talk loud too, clap loud, you know. Pour that drink, be like, oh yeah. Come over here and dance for your auntie. Come over here and dance for your auntie. That's the stuff that Tyler Perry has never put into his movies. Just saying. Just saying. So yeah. Yeah, but he gets a pass because he can't see or his glasses fogged and he can't walk. So he'll say something off the wall, you know. But the freaky grandpas, because again, his has got more to do because he's just trying to try anything to be lively. But they get more of a pass than the freaky uncle do. But there's always someone that's like that though. I've never seen a freaky grandma at a buddy parties though. Never. But Gramps be saying some off the wall stuff. But he usually be saying stuff where he don't care. Like, I'm tired of these white folks. Tear them up. He'll say something he'll be like political with it. Not too many Gramps I didn't see that was all frisky. Yeah, because they'll be up there talking about Tay Tay and Ray Ray and May May, and they have stories and they got pictures and they said, "Look at this Instagram. What the child doing? What not doing?" And then they be trying to brag about, I look good, don't I? I said, "Well, you need to slow down. You got 4 kids." "I look good. I'm going to the club. Let me get on to the club." That's the kind of situation you got there. Mhm. As if them 4 kids then gotten fed and gone home and 10 kids says they want no, she's thinking about getting baby number 5. It's hilarious. It really is. And she's checking out everybody at the cookout. And remember, the third distant cousin on down don't count. Just saying, third, fourth, fifth, you don't count. So beware. Beware. And the cat who just got out of prison in the cookout, he's treated like a hero. They got a big old sign, welcome so and so back from the joint. Big party, big drinks, big fun. That's another one. Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, because they are walking social media without social media. Like, yeah, boy, I remember your cousin Betty Lou back in '72 had a deuce and a quarter. Used to play Al Green, and they be moving their head and talking, and yeah, you ain't you Ray Ray and Mary's little. I remember your mama back when your mama used to listen to your mama was into go-go music and your daddy was into Kangos and yeah. And they be having recite this stuff and just be like telling you. They go back 3, 4 cousins deep on you. God, remember weren't you at Mercury Park? Yeah, I saw your mama. Remember your mama was pushing you in a little carriage and you had one of them Teletubbies, Rugrats in your little carriage. I remember you. Yeah, yeah. It's some funny stuff for real. It definitely be some memories too. Sometimes they be wanting to fight though. And that's even funnier. When they get loud. Mhm. Well, yeah, because you don't trust nobody. Because see, first of all, the cooler's gonna get empty. You put your hand in, ain't nothing but ice in there, unless it's some pop. But they knocking it out, and they drinking 6 deep, and they not letting no one get near it. There want no miles on it. We ain't sharing this. So I remember growing up, you could have all the pop you want, but the booze was gone. The beers was gone. They was going 6 to 12 deep. Yeah, well, for different reasons. Some of them is because the first one in the family. Sometimes it's like, boy, you finna go off. We so happy, and then they party hard. They do. They do party hard. It is definitely for different reasons. I've seen some things. I've seen some things. That's what I was saying. So orange pop, Coke, Pepsi, all that stuff sitting in there, Mountain Dew, all that, plenty of pop. But them brewskis, they have like them packs. Go off and buy like a big 12 pack, Miller High Light, Coors, Slits, all that stuff. Gone. Budweiser, gone. And the funny thing is nobody got up and go to the bathroom hardly. They be playing cards, they be playing, and then cats would sit there and play. And I'm like, and they just be drinking. I'm like, wow, you got a real tank in your system. They used to drink beer like it was water. That was a different time. See, I took part in stuff like that back then. That was a different time back then. So yeah, usually because he drunk so much and he talked so much and his eyes would get heavy and he'd fall over. But he never fall in the food or nothing. He just fall on some couch. He'd be snoring too. And he just wake up with the worst hangover. He wouldn't wake up to the next day either. He'd be knocked out for 6, 7, 8 hours. Only when people get into arguments. And also when you got those pretentious family members that are trying to say, so and so's going to school, what you doing? They get into this compare and contrast. And see, most of the time back in the day when I used to eat meat, because I don't know, but back when I did, the only thing I was worried about was getting on the next bone, next chicken bone. I wasn't thinking about what I was gonna do or how I was gonna do. I was going ready to get my grub on. But they was trying to be all intellectualized, and I was trying to check out the scene. I was trying to see what was going on. Somebody who wasn't kinfolk, somebody that was cool, wasn't into all that other mess. Shit, I was trying to work on that bone. I was trying to work on my plate. And they were like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" I'm like trying to work on this plate. So but different time back then. I remember I had a lot of 'em. We used to start ours early, about 11, 12. That's when I was in the South. Yeah, but see, I didn't go through a lot of that because when I was coming up, they talked in codes. I had families that talked in codes. So they didn't air too much out. They were very talked in codes. I give you an example. My mother used to talk in French because she used to use big words or she talked in French. So I couldn't always pick up. They talked in codes. So I never got that. Maybe you did. I didn't get that. There were fights and there were words exchanged, but most of the time they had the kids section and the grown folks section. So you knew where you were supposed to be and you knew where you weren't going to be. So that's how it was when I was growing up. So you may have heard more than I did. I saw the drinking and the other stuff and all of, you know. So I've been to a white cookout and it was kind of like real like going to a golf course. It was real dry. They drunk light beer. It was real light. They cooked out, but it was real light. Conversation was like ha 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 ha. And if there was a swimming pool or something like that, they had fun. But it was really like we gotta wait for you to make it happen, if you know what I mean. Wasn't the same. Wasn't the same. Black cookout, I went there. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was they had the section off, and they gave you that look, and we don't want to be disturbed. So I knew all the cues. When I did the white thing, though, they were more. It's real corporate. It was more business like. Food was cool, but it was different at the black ones. I always say when I'm black cookouts, the flyers was fighting you for the food. You was in there having to fight everything. Stuff was stacked. White ones, they had that thing real manicured. It's like the timing was later. It was different, different, different. And in the white sector, there wasn't any, the conversation was more business related. It was different. Yeah, they do. Like it's, again, like a trophy. See, I'm not racist. Come here, little Jessica. Come here. Look at her little braids. There was a dude had me rolling. This was about in the 90s. And dude had me rolling because he told me he went to a white cookout and they saw him and they started playing R. Kelly's 12 play album. And I was cracking up. I was like, oh Lord. I was cracking up. He said that was so random. Yeah, so that was one of the funniest things I ever heard. Yeah, they do. I mean, they want to fit in. It's a fit in thing. So it's a little bit different, you know. Take a lot of pictures and a lot of that sort of thing. When I went to Black Cookouts, I don't know if we did a lot of picture taking. They did a lot of videos. They had some video, but I don't know about a lot of picture taking. They did pictures inside. There was never no pictures outside because everybody be all spotty with sauce all over their clothes. So that was hilarious. But it was different though. I give you that. So yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, that's a cue. We're not gonna offend you. Those are some cues. We're gonna play that music. Yeah, the music always was a big thing at the cookouts because when I was growing up, the funk was played, a lot of Gap Band, Frankie Beverly and Mays. And then I went to one a little 20 years ago, it was R. Kelly, uh, Jodeci, Mary J. Blige. Like stuff you expect, certain things, when hip hop was played, it was Pac, Biggie. So it was, and some were playing Cash Money, depending on which era I'm in. Roger and Zap got played a ton. P Funk got played, Earth Wind, Commodores. This stuff standard back in the day, Isleys. But yeah, when you go to certain places, I'm not surprised by that. Not surprised at all. We have to make you feel warm and comfortable. Yep, yep, true that. Cause the last time I remember I went to a cookout, and this woman, she died. She was a friend of my of this couple I used to be cool with, and she was blasting "Stepping in the Name of Love" on and started stepping, and yeah, I remember Zapp and Roger, Gap Band. Like I said, all the funk, all the stuff got played. The usual suspects. Mhm. For the record, I didn't hear no Usher. Just saying. But I haven't been down south to, you know, sure that some of them do though. But there were certain people that you knew were gonna get played. I miss those old time cookouts when they used to have music blast, especially when it was artists that you like. Mm-hmm. The cookouts used to have the best music. I never went to a club to match the cookout music. Never. So I never had that. I never had that. We didn't. Again, only they would be bougie. I'll give you that. Some would be real tight and uppity, but I never got the buck dancing ones. I got the bougie. Got bougie. Being there trying to flaunt what they got, with their car and stuff like that. But never got the buck dancing at the cookout. Got bougie though. A lot of bougie. Like I can't really have that sauce on my food and that kind of thing. But I never did get no buck dancing. Because the kind of family I had, in some cases, you weren't going to be allowed to come. You barely were allowed to come if you were bougie because you're going to get clowned. But that's another story. Say that for another day. But not buck dancing. Bougie, yeah. Besides, you know, oh yeah, they get into like talking about it. Man, you don't know about that, man. You don't know. He throw that football and he just be getting a point. And you don't understand what he be doing. And y'all up here trying to talk about this basketball. And Kareem would throw that hook up in there and Magic does like what you talking about? You can't see it. That's the kind of stuff. And there was one other time I remember somebody was talking about Dr. J. Said, you can't touch that in the air with that fro hanging like that. You can't. Bam. Had me in stitches. But yeah, they get to talking about, yeah. But I had most of the best conversations at the barbershop. That's where you really get that sports talk. Can't be doing your hair and talk about, you're getting there about magic, talking about that. They mainly talk about basketball and football though. When I was coming along, they talked about boxing too. Nothing about baseball. Well, not necessarily a cookout, but I did come across some older cats that were talking about baseball, but it wasn't at a cookout though. It was a regular meal, but it was entertaining though. I've never seen anyone drunk at the barber shop that I encountered, but they definitely talk trash though. They would talk crazy trash though. And like Michael Jordan be doing on that hair, you know, cat be getting his hair done. Cat be cutting your hair about, yeah, I don't know. Hey, I said, man, keep your head on my head. You're there like, well, I don't know, Like, look, you can't veer off to the left. You ain't Magic Johnson. You better stay right on focus. So, but I never encountered nobody drunk at the spot. Where we went to, everybody pretty much just was drinking juice or water, or they didn't drink nothing. So, just saying. So you probably had some different experiences than I did. But barbershop talk was real. Talk about everything at the barbershop. Everything. I didn't I didn't really have that because none of the women in my family did that. My mom didn't do it, my aunts didn't do it, cousins didn't do it, grandmas didn't. Mm-mm. But they were funny naturally. They were funny naturally. We had a one drunk aunt type that she had. Now that's the truth. Now that's true. And that one I co-sign. There was a lot of that. Dudes too. They'd be like funniest one was like this dude brought this girl and Kim Folk, he said, that pretty girl, he ain't gonna do nothing with that. He ain't gonna do nothing. Now that's the kind of pipeline that would go down. Who's that high yellow girl? Who is she? Be making faces and talking trash and like sipping on some punch. I'm like, oh, he ain't gonna do nothing with that. Ain't gonna do nothing with that. That I'll give you. You know, that I will give you. Saw that. Went through that. But the other stuff, not, no. Never had that though. Never had that though. Yeah, I saw a lot of that going on. Barbecues and inside and elsewhere too. Saw a lot of that. Wasn't laughing, but I was like, okay. But I told you before, if it's 4/5 distance, they're like, it don't count. So like, okay. We just, you know, okay. There was some stuff there with that. So saw that. But usually when they were like that, they were low key and they kind of go off. No one did it like out in the open. Not back when I was coming along, not back in the day. Can't say about now, but back then, not not for all eyes to see. Not for all eyes to see. It's almost kind of like you had a cue if you're going to be into that sort of thing. So, oh yeah, I bet you did. Felt like you were at a puffy party, probably. Bet you did, because a lot of people understand that's what Puffy got it from. Folks used to have all kinds of like you'd be like, "Let me clean that table off." Ain't that something? That's cocaine. Don't touch the table. Fruit jar is a fruity jar. And they into a whole lot of freaky stuff. So yeah, that's what they do. Pool parties. Hmm That's why that what you hear about Puffy's parties and all that other stuff, that's what a lot of them do. Doing something strange for the change. Believe that. Hmm. Yep. Yep. A makeshift room. And the funny thing is that they either want you to join them or videotape them or some. It's some kinky stuff that you just be like, wow. Yep. Sometimes it's a business meeting arrangement too. Go on there and handle that deal. And that's how they handle the deal. So yeah. I never gonna dispute that because I was some stuff. That's what I was told too. I saw some stuff. Hmm. Because money talk. And people act like this was like 30, 40, 50 years ago. It still goes on, you know. They still do what they want to do. Be people that you be surprised of too. Hmm. Morals go out the window. There ain't no morals. Tell you all the time about that. That's why I used to talk about the White House because when Trump talked about doing what you want to do and you got money, he didn't stutter. There wasn't, like I said, I never had that kind of situation, but I did see him at funerals though. Give you that. When somebody died, that's where they came out. I had a situation where I went to a Buddhist temple and my buddy's sister she always said I'm the black sheep of the family. She was Asian, but she married brother. She messed with brother, and she felt that way. But that's the only time, like when, like it would be like in a church setting. I never had it on barbecue, or I wasn't aware of it. Let me be honest with you, because a lot of times, most of the time when I go there, I knew the family members, and I was ensconced in what I was doing, so I didn't see a lot of stuff pop off. Some of the stuff you mentioned, yeah, with the drunky folks and some of that, but some other stuff didn't pop off. But the gossiping was real. They was checking each other out, what you wearing, what kind of whip you came in, who you with, you know. A lot of hugs and kisses and I ain't seen you since you was yay and that kind of thing. But not too many. Well, the ones that always cracked me up was like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss you," and, "Oh," and they not crying either. That's the hilarious one. The ones like, "Ah," and there's no tears coming out. Those are the ones that are, yeah, those are the ones. The acting, those are the ones. Haven't had a lot of drunk relatives. See again, maybe because, and I wasn't deprived of shelter because I seen stuff, but most people came to most functions I went to, they behaved themselves. But you get them fake crocodile ones at the funerals, and overacting, sing every hymn and knew all the words. And then when the service is over, I don't like that jerk. No way. Make you be mean and foul, like twisted. So yeah. So that's what I got. You probably may have gotten different than I did, but mine was a little bit. They tended to act more civil, but there were some episodes. There were episodes. You know, there were some episodes, but all them. like them clubs and them places where you saw some freaky deaky and some stuff. I can attest to that for sure. And there's differences with cookouts, black and white. I can attest to that. Asian too, Mexican too. Saw some stuff. People do things a little bit differently. Some things are similar. He was a player, pimp, 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 pimp. Some cats got it like that. And some cats, even if they didn't have money, they just attracted women like that. Some of them just had it like that. There actually were some cats. People don't understand. There were cats that they weren't no music artists or actors or athletes. They just had it like that. And they was nothing for them to have a swarm of women that was feeling them like that. Some of these cats I knew didn't even work. They just had game. They had that Colgate. So there was some that were like that. I actually known cats like that. I was like, wow, you know. But it happened though. That's not uncommon at all. And or have a whole other families too. Just some crazy stuff that you see. Hmm. So yeah, it depends on how you grew up and the stuff you see and what you're exposed to. Some people just can't fathom that that could be a real life out here. But it is though. It'd be real out here. You'd be surprised. People's experiences and journeys. Uh One of the greatest artists ever because I defend him, but I think that sometimes he acts like he might not understand why people got turned off by his post Commodore's career. Some people think he left his funk roots behind. Some people think but in his defense, I always looked at him as kind of like a Ray Charles offshoot. He was a versatile artist. Some people think he was Black Manilow or say that about him. I said, but no, I said the guy wrote classic songs, versatile talent, one of the greatest artists ever. But I think that his blackness is always in the question. They always come at line about his blackness. And I think he has to address that to some, you know. Not to me. Billy D, well, he came out with that fluid thing and he acted like he didn't know what that meant. And um slick dude, old Hollywood though, you know. One of those cats that, debonair and slick. I think I would have loved to have heard him speak out and say, look, I was the link between Sidney Poitier and Billy and Denzel Washington. And he never do. I think I'd like to hear him come on and say about Black Hollywood what he went through. Al Green, this how he basically between the sacred and the spiritual and how he dealt with that as an artist. How he, dealt with those demons. That would be interesting to hear him talk about. Shaka, I just like her to be uncut. I like it when she's uncut at her best. Anything else, I think she's acting because I know how she really be feeling about folks. I was disappointed in her book. She let it be known who she thought has talent, who don't. So, but that's the only thing I got because I like when she's honest. But Al Green, yeah, just how he juggles between the spiritual and the popular, and and that. That's all. Lionel, because understanding why his audience, some black folks, is turned off because they don't think he left his funk roots behind and issues. And Billy D, because being a black leading man, and I say that he was the link between Portier and Denzel. He was. There were other black actors like Calvin Lockhart who doesn't get his love, and there's some others. But Billy D was that matinee dude that was between those two. And you gotta wonder, yeah, he did Star Wars and all that, but he just hide him. Uh, I think because she had to play the Clive Davis game with being America's sweetheart, and it caught up with her with the stuff at the end. Sadly, a lot of acting. Mariah, same thing. She's a Bronx, New York girl. she's a tomboy, but she ain't like YMC. She don't give me YMCA vibes like Alicia Keys, but cut from the same cloth. She's from that. She's got more hood in her than she tomboy's tough, but she had to play a soft core crossover non-black threatening type. So it's interesting, you know. Um, we never see the real her. It's a lot of facade going on. I think there's a lot of pain in her eyes too. She didn't sacrifice a lot to get what she got. Not saying that she didn't work hard, but you know, it's like she really has to do over time. Something don't add up, you know. And I think she wants acceptance. She wants to be seen, like I said before, she wants to be seen as the heir to Michael and Whitney. And she's trying anything. She really is. She wants to be deeply accepted in what, and she's not that deep. Just saying. She's got charisma and personality on stage and voice and talent, but she doesn't have that, just don't have that. And she's got to know that, hey, everybody ain't, so I'd say you got to come up better. You work hard, but you got to put the songs. You got the it. You just ain't got the it. Tell Beyonce to go do a Lionel Richie 2 or 3 songs, do a Whitney song, do an Al Green song, a Shaka song. There you go. You may have to do a cover album. The song I heard, the Texas Hold'em, it's decent. Good, Raphael Sadiq, but it ain't like I'm sitting there going, oh wow. It's decent. But Mickey Guyton, the country singer is a better singer than Beyonce. I mean, I feel Mickey more authentic country. So that's all. I just don't think that he was necessarily what I call a championship quality player. And he peaked late in his career, which that's why Shaq and Kobe and some others had issue with him. But he worked hard though. I think he's underappreciated, underrated. He got people ticked off, but you know, he would be scary today though if he played like. See, he got hot, and then when Dan Tony came along, so that's some people get it, you know. And he's almost a victim of his own success. But he didn't get to a finals, and that's what works against him for so many. At least get to the finals. Uh, at first it was because he left Detroit, but he fit in good. He was always like the guy I always thought that was he was the low budget Scottie Pippen, but he was a strong complementary part to a guy that was he's a strong co-star. But I did have a problem when I liked him in New York, but I had a problem when he left Detroit because I thought he fit better. But eventually he got it together in New York and he came up big. He did his thing. And he's the kind of co-star, but I just thought that he never was like a top tier dude. But he was a co-star. Well, nothing wrong with that. So there's a pet peeve is probably because they want him to be seen as a big star, but he was really the co, which ain't bad, but not for what you. But they did get to the finals in New York. They just didn't have Ewing, and we'll never know how that would have been. So him and Latrell were good together. Well, I didn't really have a lot of those because I didn't really partake. I would be honest with you, I'm not Chris Cuomo, so just so you know. And yeah, there was some people that say did some things, but in another life, but I never really got into a lot of that stuff. Never really did because, before Me Too and all that other stuff, I just was very low key. I tended to separate myself from work. So if anybody was cool outside of work, that's one thing, but I didn't mix and match. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Watch what I say too. So just keep me 100. So that they bought and paid for, that none of them have a spine, that they let the commissioner, they get dictated about who to give files to, calls to. See, you can watch the Rasheed Wallace thing. Everything he's saying is true. They were bad calls. Shaq never got half the free throws he should have gotten. So they let flopping and acting. Some of them guys were in depth. There were phantom calls. There was technical. It's the same mess I see today. I despise refs in most sports. They have instant replay and they still get it wrong. Football. Yeah. I have a problem with them. They don't call an equal game. And when I watch the Lakers, for instance, there's no way in the world they should be getting 20 more free throws than another team. Last I checked, Shaquille O'Neal didn't enter the building. Anthony Davis ain't that kind of player. LeBron ain't really like that. So who else is getting all these calls? Because those are your superstars, and they're not even really like that. Because AD don't camp out in the post. So, now you want me to talk about get off my lawn. My biggest pet peeve with them is just the lack of desire to put the work in. I think cats, not so much they're getting paid, but they got too many things to distract them with social media. Not all they fault because the commissioner has a big hand in it. However, they are not. They're kind of dissuaded from really being held accountable for making sure their team wins and competing at the highest level, and and really trying to better the quality of the game. It's no drive today to say, I'm coming for Steph. I want his rings. You don't hear no one saying that. I don't hear Jason Tatum says, I want his rings. Mahomes came out and said, I'm chasing Brady. I'm like, I'm in Montana's door. I'm coming for him. You know what he was talking about. I don't hear, Tiger Woods said it about Nicholson. I don't hear these guys coming out saying, I want LeBrons, I want Durant's, I want Kawhi Leonard, I want Curry, you know. And I don't know why. Well, I know why. Cat's making so much money, and also, it's like I always say, no matter what the year, there's only a handful of guys that are gonna truly get it. They're a plantation. They suck. They don't really, and their thing is even about sports. It's about the athlete, but condensing it. So it's like a clip. It's not even about the actual event. The event is actually secondary. The athlete has to fit a box. So it's not even about that anymore. They used to be about some journalism. I think Rasheed Wallace did a good video where he talking about everybody wants to be like Stuart Scott and Bouye and all that. When Stewart did that, everybody was offended, and a lot of bigots came out and said, "Who you're a clown," and all that. Nowadays, that's what they want. But he was articulate too. There is no more articulation on it. There's no more sports talk. You can't talk about it if you only talk about the same handful of stories. And you got to have the buddy cop, black guy, white guy, or you got to have guys who randomly talk about the same thing. It's boring. They don't have no variety. For all the journalism that Stephen A talks about, he's predictable because they only want to talk about what they got. That Nick calls not Luke Luke Lou Leo 'cause the cast that be on ESPN. Um, it's kind of samey. They wear their bias on their head. um, I think that the polls are suspect, quality is suspect. They were lucky that Michigan beat Washington, so it made it look appealable. But how come Georgia didn't get a chance to defend their title? I know they lost that game to Bama, but I mean, you kind of wonder, should there been a 16 playoff? So these things are going to be kind of suspect in the way they realignment. So Sometimes they're getting it right, sometimes they're not. They're finally getting more with the playoff right, but again, a lot of stuff, has been kind of watered down till you kind of scratch your head, so you just really don't know, you know. But it's nothing but a plantation for the NFL. So now that they're getting paid, that's helping out a lot. But the quality, you know, so this year was, you know, that they get character. Like they become like a character, like they become like a merch. Because some people make a joke about them and clown it and laugh, and then they get a fan club. People make a joke about, there was this baseball player named Mario Mendoza, and he used to say he couldn't bat past the Mendoza line because he wouldn't even bat in his body weight, and yet he had all this hype, because it was a joke. It's kind of like when you watch American Idol and the auditions, and William hung and someone sucked and she banged, and people laugh and make a joke of it, but then they end up putting $1 million and blowing that person up and giving them a career. And he had the right last name too. And he had 2.5 coaching gigs. He coached the Lakers, Sacramento, and partly of Golden State. Think about it. Not bad. Got some championship rings as a player and as a coach. Not bad. Had the right last name, had the white skin tone and privilege. Not bad. Yeah. So if you think about it and you do an exam on it, cats get, you were quick on that one too, Ted. And that's true. You know. He you know, some of these cats get the right place, right situation. They're never gonna come out and admit it because again, and he's not gonna say nothing. But let's be realistic. If he didn't have that last name with his skin tone, he would have been just another white boy that may not have even, he would have had a Johnny Manziel type of situation, if half of that. So that's just but those guys get hooked up. That's how it works. You laugh at them, they get hooked up. They get hooked up. They get hooked up. They get Blazers on ESPN. Well, no, not as an assistant coach, he wasn't. As a player, you know, but he did other things. He was more like Udonis Haslam. He was like a dude that was mentoring guys. He was meant to be a coach. Ask me about how he is as a coach. I tell you, he's a never was. Look, I loved him with the Wolverines as a player, but I don't like his coaching antics with the Wolverines too much. He had a pretty good couple runs, and then remember he got into that one shouting match with that dude when he's wearing his mask, and he just embarrassed himself. It's like he just be doing some eagerish stuff. So, mm, but I did like him, you know, but I like him more personally, like he's a cool cat, but his coaching and his stuff, some of his antics be a little too, he doing too much. So now everybody that rides the pine is a scrub because they got integral parts because he actually could halfway play. Luke Walton, the difference between Luke Walton and Jawan is that Jawan could actually play once upon a time. Luke was third tier. He was too slow. He moved. He could throw a good pass though, but he was never gonna be no starter for nobody. But he got hooked up, you know. So black and white scrubs are different too, because white boys usually get the jobs. Brothers get assistant coaches, and they end up getting head coach. They'll get like, as a player, he wasn't no bum. He was a role player, and I don't even. And he did okay for what he did. He wasn't great. So, like I told you, the only time I can say someone a bum is if they had potential to be great or good. He was okay for what he did. He was a third tier guard who was okay, who turns into being a really good coach. And if he gets the Clippers to the finals and wins a chip, he becomes a great one. Because then he shuts up all the people who thought he wrote LeBron's coattail. He got Kawhi. He brings Kawhi back, Paul George, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. That man becomes a great coach. That's how big it could be with the Clippers. He'll go from being considered good to great. Childish antics. And he's been shot for 5 years as really a player, but he's allowed to, and he does too much. His mental agenda isn't healthy, but because he happens to sew in a lot of parts for that team, somehow he's in better shape than Klay Thompson. Somehow he's in better shape than Wiggins. But I heard that white boy called him out though in practice though, so we'll see. But he wants to be a hothead and you know fire the tactics up in an era when that's not even happening. I can't find no pet peeve with Marino. He just was a victim of timing. Never had a running game, and the defense wasn't as good. He's a heck of a quarterback. It's just timing. I have no pet peeve with him at all. Not really, because he was, some people to this day think he's the greatest quarterback ever. Or in that argument, even without a ring, they hold him top 10. So he didn't. He was. Marino was something else. I'm gonna go in a couple minutes because I gotta go eat. So I'm gonna, if we got a couple more before I call the night. 'Cause we've been on for 2.5 plus. It's been great. But if you got a couple more after Marino, feel free to shoot me one or two if you got any more. It was predictable. Everybody got a daddy. Everybody tranny or you're a woman or you're a man. There was always those. I mean, it got old after a while. It was great for a while. You know, he had some creative. For a while. But like them shows tend to wear out, just like Jerry Springer did. After a while, it gets old and it gets boring. But when it's on point for like 10 years, it's like a year 15 or 10 so plus years, it's like you can only do so much. So it gets kind of predictable, you know. But he was a game changer though, for what he did though. But believe it or not, no pet peeves with Marino. None at all, because I thought he was a great quarterback. I mean, I hated when he gave up my bill because I was always because that dude was no joke. One of the quickest releases, and believe me, if they had to stacked him like they did Peyton Manning. Like he could have had that kind of run. He could have had a couple rings. If he had 2 rings, he'd be considered the GOAT because he had everything else: his mechanics, his timing, and he wasn't like that at the University of Pitt. Like you saw him coming out like that. So he was a bad boy. It's just that one Super Bowl appearance, and that was that I tell people all the time, different era back then. I mean, it's still similar now because you don't know how many chances you're going to get, but really tough back then because I mean, defenses, because people play defense. It's not like now where you might get, another chance. Defense meant everything back then. They just do zone coverage, cover two, so cats get the creep and it's cheap. Different era. So, but yeah, Tyronn Lue can make history if he somehow figure out a way to get to win with the Clippers with Kawhi, because Kawhi is the forgotten great player. He win with that and Paul George and Harden and Westbrook. Oh, he goes to great status. He goes to great, real great. That's how big it would be for Ty Lue to win. Because all the people said, well, you only won because you had LeBron and Kyrie and all that. And the way he won, and that was a big historical thing to win, be Golden State. This would be even more. This here, especially when you figure that Kawhi's been kind of forgotten and Paul George too, and Harden and Westbrook. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It'd be even bigger. Anyway, thanks for everybody that came out. Peace and the best. Stay safe, stay warm, stay cool. We're going to do it again probably tomorrow, probably around the same time. Always appreciate the questions and feedback and the vibe. So, peace, the best. Best to everybody. Appreciate you coming through. Have a good night. Stay warm. I'll catch you next time. I'm out.